In the summer of 2022, researchers at Cornell University, one of the finest research institutions this country has ever produced, published a study describing something they had never seen in any animal on the planet. Not in mammals, not in primates, not in any creature that has ever been put under a microscope. And what they found was a direct, hardwired neural connection running from a dog's nose straight into the visual cortex of its brain, which means that when a Navy SEAL dog moves through total darkness on a nighttime mission, it is not just smelling the enemy ahead. At a neurological level that is now documented science, it is literally seeing them through its nose. That finding alone changed how researchers understand these animals. But it was only the beginning of what the studies revealed. Before we get into this, drop a comment right now. What sense do you think a SEAL dog relies on most when it's working a real combat operation? Smell, hearing, or vision? Put your answer down there, and let's see how science lands by the time we get to the end. Finding one, the nose that sees. Here is the thing about the Cornell study that most science coverage completely missed, and it is the detail that makes this finding genuinely extraordinary rather than just interesting. Professor Philippa Johnson, a veterinary neurologist at Cornell's College of Veterinary Medicine and the lead author on the paper, was not looking for a connection between the nose and the visual cortex when her team started this research, because nobody expected one to be there. The discovery came from a detailed mapping of what the researchers called the canine olfactory pathway, essentially tracing where scent signals actually travel once they enter the brain, and what the maps showed was an extensive, well-developed highway of neural connections running from the olfactory system directly into the occipital lobe, which is the brain's primary center for processing everything a living creature sees. That connection does not exist in humans. It does not exist to any documented degree in any other species the research community has studied. It appears to be uniquely, distinctly canine, and what it means in practical terms is something Johnson described in a way that is worth sitting with for a moment. When you or I walk into a room, we use our eyes to tell us where the door is, who is standing in the room, and how the space is laid out. A dog appears to use scent to build that exact same picture, and the neural architecture Johnson's team documented suggests that the scent and the visual information are not two separate processes happening at the same time. They are woven together into a single unified experience that simply has no equivalent in human perception. Johnson pointed to something that brings this out of the abstract and into the real world very quickly. Dogs that lose their vision function remarkably well. They can still play fetch, still navigate their home, and still get around in ways that put a visually impaired human to shame. Because the nose is not a backup system waiting to fill in when the eyes go dark. For a dog, scent may be the primary system, with the visual cortex actively working alongside it the entire time. Now put that dog in a nighttime combat insertion. Total darkness, smoke possibly in the air, a team of operators moving toward an objective that has not been visually confirmed. The dog at the front of that patrol is not operating blind. According to the Cornell research, it is constructing a detailed spatial map of what lies ahead using scent information. And its visual cortex is participating in that process in a way that no night vision camera, no thermal optic, and no piece of equipment the defense industry currently makes can fully replicate. America has spent billions of dollars developing technology to give its warfighters an edge in low-visibility environments. Turns out, the most sophisticated low-visibility sensor in the American arsenal has 4 legs and a tail. Finding 1 kilometer. The detection range that military planners actually use. The United States War Dogs Association, the organization that has documented and advocated for America's military working dog program for decades, has published a figure that most people, even serious military enthusiasts have never come across, and it is the kind of number that stops you when you first read it. Under the right conditions, a trained military dog can detect a target scent at a distance of up to 1,000 meters, 1 full kilometer, through smell alone, with nothing but a favorable wind and the biology it was born with. To put that distance in context that makes the operational significance immediately clear, an average trained rifleman engages targets effectively out to about 300 meters. A skilled sniper with a precision rifle works out to 800 meters under good conditions. A military dog with the wind at its back is detecting a human target at a range that exceeds both of those numbers before a single shot has been fired, before anyone on the patrol has seen anything, and without making a sound that would give away the team's position. In still air with no wind carrying the scent, that detection range drops to about 200 meters. Still longer than most infantry engagements, but the point is that the ceiling on this animal's detection capability in favorable conditions is not just impressive, it is strategically meaningful. A study published in Science Reports in early 2025 examined how different breeds perform in terms of raw olfactory speed and accuracy. And the findings confirmed something working dog trainers have observed for generations. Scent hound breeds like beagles and bloodhounds are the fastest pure detectors, but the Belgian Malinois and German Shepherd, the two breeds most commonly seen working alongside American Special Operations Forces, combine serious detection capability with the drive, focus, and trainability that make performance reliable when the pressure is real and the environment is nothing like a training field. A dog that detects at 1,000 meters but cannot hold its focus in a helicopter is not a useful military asset. The breeds America selected for this work were not chosen by accident. What this detection range means at the operational level is something experienced commanders understand and talk about in terms that are very direct. The dog is not just finding threats, the dog is buying time. When a patrol dog alerts at 800 meters, the team leader has time to halt the element, assess the situation, call for support if needed, and make decisions about how to approach, all before anyone on his team has stepped into the risk zone. That is not a capability. That is a force multiplier, and it is one that has been working in America's favor on real battlefields for over a century. Finding 3. Unusual thing happening inside the brain. A study published through the National Institutes of Health looked at something that had never been directly measured before. Which specific regions of a dog's brain actually light up during scent detection? And which of those regions is doing the heaviest lifting when the animal is distinguishing one scent from another? The researchers exposed dogs from 4 different breeds to garlic, menthol, alcohol, and cannabis using laser-based imaging to watch brain activity in real time. And they found 3 regions consistently involved in the process. The olfactory bulb, which handles the initial processing of scent signals, the hippocampus, which manages memory, and the amygdala. The olfactory bulb being involved was expected. The hippocampus made sense. Memory is central to how a trained detection dog matches a current scent against what it learned in training. But the amygdala was the result that genuinely surprised the research team, because the amygdala is not a sensory organ in the way most people think about sensory processing. It is the brain's emotional core, the region responsible for threat assessment, fear responses, and emotionally charged memories. Finding it playing a dominant role in scent discrimination means that when a trained military dog catches the scent it has been trained to find, the experience is not a calm, neutral, intellectual recognition. It is processed through the same hardware that generates intense emotional responses, which is why these dogs do not just calmly indicate a target when they find it. They are driven toward it with what looks very much like urgency, focus, and something that in a human being we would call excitement. This also explains why the training system works as well as it does. The reward that seal dogs are trained with, typically a favorite toy, becomes linked at the level of the amygdala itself to the target scent. The dog is not just learning a behavior, it is forming an emotional association so deep it sits in the same region of the brain that handles the most powerful experiences of its life. That is not a trick. That is neuroscience being put to work in a way that has kept American operators alive. Finding 4. Hearing the unhearable. Dogs hear across a frequency range running from roughly 40 Hz on the low end to 65,000 Hz at the top. A healthy human being with excellent hearing tops out at around 20,000 Hz and does not register anything below about 20 Hz. What that gap means in practice is that a military dog standing watch alongside a human sentry is receiving audio information from an entirely different slice of the acoustic world. Frequencies the human cannot perceive, will never perceive, and has no technology on his belt that replicates at the same reliability and zero cost of a dog that already exists and is already trained. At the high end of that range, a dog is picking up ultrasonic sounds, the kind produced by small movements in grass or foliage, by certain electronic equipment, by mechanical processes that generate no sound a human ear would register as anything worth attention. At the low end, very low frequency waves travel through terrain and through building materials in ways that higher frequencies cannot, which means the dog is receiving information about what is on the other side of a wall or around a corner through acoustic channels that are simply closed to every human being in the building. The structural advantage goes further than frequency range. Dogs have approximately 18 separate muscles controlling ear movement. Humans have 3 or 4, and most people cannot voluntarily move their ears at all. A dog can independently swivel each ear toward a different sound source simultaneously, which means it is not just hearing more, it is actively steering its hearing like a pair of independent radar dishes, triangulating the direction and distance of sounds with a precision that fixed human ears cannot match. Inside a structure during a clearance operation, that means the dog moving through the hallway ahead of the team is receiving acoustic information about what is in the next room before anyone opens the door. That is not a detail. In the context of room-to-room clearance, that is the difference between a team walking into a known situation and walking into an unknown one. Finding 5. Eyes built for the dark and wired for movement. Most people know that dogs see a limited color range. Yellows and blues come through clearly, while greens and reds fade into shades of gray. That is accurate, and it is also the least important thing about how canine vision actually functions in the field. The details that matter operationally are the ones almost nobody talks about. Dogs have significantly more rod cells in their eyes than humans do, and rod cells are the photoreceptors responsible for seeing in low-light conditions. Beyond that, dogs have a reflective layer behind the retina called the tapetum lucidum, that is the structure that makes a dog's eyes glow when a flashlight catches them in the dark. And what it does is bounce incoming light back through the photoreceptor layer a second time, effectively giving the eye 2 passes at every photon that enters it. The result is that a dog can see clearly and functionally in light conditions that would leave a human operator effectively blind without equipment. The other dimension of canine vision that matters operationally is what it has evolved to prioritize: movement. Wild dogs hunted at dusk and dawn, in low light, where detecting the subtle motion of prey across a dim landscape was more important than resolving fine detail. That evolutionary history left modern dogs with visual systems exquisitely tuned to pick up motion at the edge of their field of view, in conditions where a human sentry would look at the same terrain and see only stillness and shadows. And now bring back the Cornell finding that visual cortex is also receiving processed input from the olfactory system. The nose is feeding the eyes are feeding the nose. Each sense is reinforcing the others in a continuous loop. building a picture of the environment that is more complete than any single sense alone could produce, and more complete than anything human perception or human technology currently replicates. Closing. A nose that constructs a visual map of the world and can reach a target scent at a full kilometer downwind. A brain that processes the act of finding a scent through its emotional core, making detection feel as much as it is thought. Ears that hear into frequency ranges completely invisible to human perception, mounted on a skull with the ability to steer each one independently toward a separate sound source. Eyes with a built-in light amplifier and a lifelong evolutionary bias toward catching the movement that happens right at the edge of darkness. And all of it, every one of those systems, woven together by neural architecture that Cornell researchers documented as genuinely unique among all studied species on this planet. A brain where the nose talks directly to the visual cortex and the visual cortex talks back, in a loop that produces a kind of situational awareness that has no human equivalent and no name in the English language, because we have never needed one. The scientists who ran these studies called the findings genuinely surprising. The special operations commanders who have been sending these animals into harm's way for decades, into Fallujah, into the mountains of Afghanistan, through doors in the middle of the night that no human being wanted to open first, they probably just called it what they already knew. America's most quietly effective warfighter has never needed a rank, a uniform, or a pension. It just needed a handler who understood what it was capable of and the good sense to trust it. Hit the like button if this changed how you think about what is actually happening inside that dog's head on a real mission. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who care about the real science behind what makes the American military the most capable fighting force this world has ever seen. Subscribe and ring the bell, because there is more of this coming. And drop a comment below. Did the Cornell findings surprise you, or did some part of you already know that dogs were experiencing a world that humans simply cannot access? Tell me. See you in the next one.